Hey guys, Jack on Tech here, and today I'm going to talk to you about the Samsung Galaxy S20 Plus. Now, some of you might feel indifferent about this phone since it is an Android phone and nobody likes Android. But I'm telling you, this one's different. I once felt the same way having been an iPhone user for 7 years, but a lot of impressive changes has been made to this phone, especially the camera. I personally picked up the Cosmic Gray color from Best Buy for under $700 thanks to their pre-order promo, but originally cost $1,200. Across the board, they offer Cloud Blue, Cloud Pink, Cosmic Black, and Cosmic Gray. They also have the Ore Blue color, which is a Best Buy exclusive, and they recently dropped the Cloud White as well, which is only available in Korea for now. It's got a 6.7-inch dynamic AMOLED display that maxes out to 1440p. This is what Samsung calls their Infinity O display, which can light up more than 16 million colors. It's got really tiny bezels and a punch-hole front-facing camera, which is a complete stunner. You can really take advantage of this when zooming into photos, scrolling through full-screen apps, watching videos or movies, or just playing video games. What's really cool about this Infinity O display and having a single punch-hole camera at the center is that you can be as creative as you want when it comes to choosing a wallpaper. One of the biggest upgrades is the 120Hz refresh rate. So this means silky smooth scrolling and realistic animations. But you can only enable this with 1080p or lower. The maximum resolution of 1440p cannot work with the 120Hz, so you cannot have high refresh rate and a high resolution at the same time. Probably because Samsung wants us to save more battery. I don't know. Most phones now only use 60Hz, like the iPhone, OnePlus, Vivo, and Oppo for example. The difference between 60Hz and 120Hz cannot be captured by any camera because of its frame rate. But if any of you have used an iPad Pro before, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Personally, I'd rather have 120Hz on this thing than rocking it at full resolution with only 60Hz. It's just a good trade-off. Since it comes with a bigger refresh rate, it also comes with a bigger battery at 4500 mAh compared to last year's 4000. It has an IP68 rating for water and dust resistance, so this will be fine if you decide to submerge it in 1.5 meters underwater for 30 minutes. It has the latest iteration of One UI, which is the skin that Samsung puts on top of the Android 10 software. They tucked in a lot of features up its sleeve, like changing the orientation of your volume controls, different navigation options so you can choose whether you want it to be the normal button placement on screen, or go for gesture-based navigation, which is more intuitive and easier to use since you just swipe left or right to go back and swipe up to go home. You even have the option to hide the navigation bar below to get a full screen view of everything. You also have the choice to make your incoming calls take up the whole screen, half of it, or even just a tiny bit. You can also customize your edge panel apps that would be perfect for multitasking. There's way too many to mention, but the power comes from either an Exynos 990 or the Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 chipset, which is 5G enabled. So yes, this phone has 5G capabilities. It's packed with 12GB of RAM, which is more than what most laptops have nowadays, but is perfect for people who need to run a lot of apps in the background, so you don't really have to worry about most of them closing. For biometric security, it has an ultrasonic fingerprint sensor under the display. You can also use their 2D facial recognition or, just use both at the same time. The volume rockers and power button are now all placed on the right instead of the left like the Note 10. It comes with Dolby Atmos stereo speakers, a USB-C port, and yes, no more headphone jack. It has wireless power share, so you can easily charge any device that supports Qi wireless charging. So this means your AirPods, Galaxy Buds, Apple Watches, or a smartphone. Now for the best part, the camera system. You can still expect extra sharp and vibrant photos, as Samsung does this very well, but this time, they were able to pull off better call accuracy and better quality in some parts. In this setup, there is a 12 megapixel main sensor, 12 megapixel ultra-wide lens, and a 64 megapixel telephoto lens. And all are substantially bigger than previous generations. The fourth, well, that's a time flight sensor that produces a real bokeh effect or blur when shooting close subjects. Samsung also packed this camera with an out-of-this-world 30x zoom, and were nice to even put a viewfinder as well, if ever you lose sight of your subject. So here's the 30x zoom in all its glory. It's insane how a smartphone is capable of doing this. Honestly, 30x zoom isn't that useful for posting on Instagram or Facebook since it does give up some quality. I mean, it's all up to you what you want to do with it, but I just think 10 times is the farthest you can go and still get amazing quality. The main sensor takes 12 megapixel photos at default, but maxes out to 64 megapixels if you enable it in settings. As you can see, the colors are more accurate now as compared to being oversaturated and vivid in the past. It's like the colors burst, but the textures now are very sharp. It's like you can feel the object just by looking at the photo. Samsung has also improved a lot on dynamic range, so that's why the bright lights aren't as harsh anymore and it comes out more realistic. The time-of-flight sensor is very handy when it comes to close-up shots. It uses lasers to measure the distance between the camera and the subject and automatically blurs the background. As I zoom into the photo, you can see that there are no blurred spots along the edges. It's a perfect outline. And that's because of the lasers. Smartphones with no time-of-flight sensor tend to distort the blur because it's only using software to do the trick. Samsung is one of the first ones to put this on their phone, and I must admit that it does have trouble sensing what to focus on sometimes. Like if ever the subject is too close to the background, it doesn't really focus on the entire subject, but rather what element is closest to the sensor. Since the cameras are larger now, this results to better low-light photos without night mode turned on. But in really dark places or pitch black areas, then that's where you can see the true power of the S20's night mode. I find Samsung's night mode second to the king of night photography, the Google Pixel, because it retains detail and sharpness and it also works with the ultra-wide lens. The only gripe I have with using night mode with the ultra-wide lens is that the image becomes soft towards the edge of the photo. Oh yeah, you can even take selfies in night mode. So if you have one and you're going to meet up with your friends at the bar after quarantine, then you know exactly whose phone you're going to use. Video is very stable regardless of what lens you use and what resolution you set it to. The color accuracy is consistent all throughout, and you can see the time-of-flight sensor doing all its magic as well. It is very stable because of the optical image stabilization, so it's much like recording video using a gimbal. All S20 models are capable of shooting up to 8K video at 24 frames per second, which is insane. The 8K video is so clear that it can produce a 33 megapixel photo if you take a screenshot of it. I did shoot my first video with the S20 Plus, so if you haven't checked it out, I'll throw up the link above. Okay, I'm not really good at selfies, nor am I confident enough to take some, but of course I had to test it out for you guys. I was only able to take some photos just around my neighborhood, and from what I saw, it held up pretty well. I'm sure a lot of us are used to adjusting the aperture of our phone to get the perfect lighting for our selfies, but because of Samsung's high dynamic range and their image processing, you can expect excellent results. Alright, so I'm at the park right now at around 2 p.m. and the park's just around like 20-30 feet away from my house, so not that far. As you can see, nobody's here, just me, but safety first, right? Anyway, I just wanted to give you guys a quick look at how the camera works. There you go, and a quick test at the microphone as well. Yeah, it picks up colors really well, and dynamic range is pretty good. Samsung has come a very long way and has really earned its spot at the top. They heard a lot of people hating on the cameras, which I once did, but hey, they stepped up. Big time. They might have even given too much with that 30 times zoom, but I'm still grateful. Personally, I think the Galaxy S20 Plus is the best one out of the series. It's a good size, it's slim, and there's little to no curvature on the screen anymore, so farewell to those accidental touches. And as I said earlier, I was a former iPhone user, so if you're planning to make the switch, then I highly recommend this phone. It's got crazy specs, a much better camera, a million features, and that 120Hz refresh rate, which I just can't get over with. So what are your thoughts on the Galaxy S20 Plus? Did Samsung really deliver this time, or did they just take a small step from the past? I think it's the best phone I've ever had, and I'm excited for what Samsung has in store. Anyway, that's been it. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, then feel free to do so. It would help me out a lot, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Color. Wait, so this means you can see the color Z. Focus on. With your baby's